Okay, this video is about manipulation, manipulating objects to turn them into kind of different forms, right? So our main tool is mostly going to be this black arrow. Black arrow is multifaceted. It makes me select the object, the whole object. But if you look, if you mouse over right at the corner, you see it turn into this curved arrow. That allows me to um, rotate things. Remember, Command Z always goes back. Um, then if I go over a corner edge, you'll see these two-way arrows. When you do that, you're going to likely always want to hold down Shift to constrain it so it keeps its same exact aspect ratio. If you don't, you'll see, you'll see that you can pretty much move it around like this, but as soon as you hold down Shift, it constrains it. And of course, obviously, just grabbing it moves it. Another key tip is that if you hold down the Option key, you'll see it kind of turn this double arrow. That means I can drag out an exact copy. So that is probably going to get you 80% of the way any given time. But there are other tools. We have the white arrow, which has been shown in the shape video, that allows me to pull individual shapes, individual points to manipulate the shape. There is also an eraser tool, which will allow me to just kind of cut through a shape. Remove that. A scissors tool, which kind of cuts an edge, adds a little dot there. We don't really need that. Knife tool. Your knife tool will also help kind of cut a shape. So if you see now, I have this as a separate shape right here. The rotate tool, I literally have never used it because the black arrow duplicates exactly what the rotate tool does. The reflect tool, how I generally use the reflect tool is actually with the object selected, I will double click on its icon and bring up this little dialog box, and this allows me to go ahead and it's a square so you wouldn't tell what happens, but to actually flip along a horizontal or vertical axis, and I can copy it or just flip the exact object that we have. Of course, you can't see the results because it's a square. Scale tool, again, I use the black arrow, so there's never anything that no reason to use it. Shear tool is kind of interesting because you can kind of just pull down one of your edges and kind of manipulate this way. The Reshape tool is a little complex to use. The whole concept of the Reshape tool is allow you to kind of select a bunch of little dots of the anchor points and move them around without really affecting a lot of the other things, because if you just move it with a white arrow, you're kind of dependent on like fixing the acceleration curves and things like that yourself. It's a little more complicated. I suggest maybe looking it up on lynda.com or online if you think you want to use it, because it can be useful. This is the free transform tool. This is a little complicated. It's got this sub menu here. I mean, this is just transform, which is, you just do with your black arrow, right? But then they have some specific ones where they have a perspective distort, right? Oops. So let's say I want to make something like kind of follow a perspective distort, which means mapping it to the two sides together. And then a free distort, which is again somewhat like using just the white arrow tool in some ways. Other than that, those are pretty much the main ways to manipulate things. In this video too, I'll show you this. Obviously, you'll need to zoom in to get in to work on things. You can use the zoom tool. You have to hold down Option, and you can Option click to zoom out, or you can kind of use the scrub zoom movement by keeping it held down. The hand tool helps me move the artboard around, so maybe once I zoom in, I can go in and do that. You can also access that hand tool pretty much with any tool selected and holding down the space bar. And the zoom tool, again, I never ever click to the zoom tool. If you actually just hit Command minus and Command plus, you're able to do the zooming. So those are pretty much the main ways to manipulate objects and even the canvas.